So the first time I officially came to Wigram was when I joined the Air Force in 1982, and I remember driving through the gates and seeing the Harvard on the pole, and thinking, yeah, this is it, here I am, I've done an adult thing and joined the Air Force. Drove down to, well, we directed down to number 2 officers mess, walked in the anteroom there to find out what was going on, and immediately got told off for wearing shorts, which apparently you're not allowed to wear in the anteroom of the officers mess. The mess was full actually, so our course shifted into a barrack block which hadn't been used for about 20 years, and we were told that there would be an inspection on the Monday morning, and then we had to tidy everything up and get it up to speed. But no one told us that you were never going to pass your first inspection anyway, because that's just the way it was. You had to fail that so that you couldn't leave the base on the first weekend that you were here, which is probably a good thing actually. So a very strong memory for me is working out of one hangar, which is where the pilot training squadron was based, which is obviously now part of the museum. But it wasn't particularly bird proof and it wasn't weatherproof. So when it was cold, it was really cold inside, and when it was hot, it was really hot. And when the nor'west was blowing, you couldn't open the doors because dust would blow around and aeroplanes on jacks would fall over and things like that. There's no air conditioning. We could, in the classrooms, which were on the side of the hangar, we could open the windows sort of sometimes, as long as it wasn't too windy, and then the air trainers would fly past, and we were very distracted looking at aeroplanes anyway, so it was hard to pay attention to the lessons. But the base warrant officer, who was the parade warrant officer, he would form up down at CTS and then march to the parade ground for our weekly parade. And he was quite a stickler for everything being absolutely correct, as he should be. And we had found out the trick that if it was going to be a cold day, you only had to iron your shirt collar, because you'd be wearing a jersey and no one could see that you had a wrinkly shirt on. And we fell into the trap of, it's going to be a cold day, and then it came out quite nice, and the parade warrant officer, the base warrant officer said, okay, jerseys off for the parade. And maybe we should have the jerseys on. No, officer cadets, take your jerseys off. So very embarrassing to be in front of all the airmen who had very well pressed shirts and we were wrinkly. I mean, while you're training, you're marching everywhere, learning the trade. So, I mean, for a start, they spend 3 months teaching you how to eat with a knife and a fork, because we're going to be officers and stuff, which you spend the entire time trying to get to the end of that so that you can start flying. And then when you do get to do that, flying out of Wigram was so cool. It's so historic. The first time I came back to Wigram, that was really sad. Everything had changed, of course. A lot of buildings had been knocked over and partly rebuilt into housing. It hadn't fully changed over, but there was still a lot that I recognised and a lot that I changed. But the place was abandoned. There was tumbleweeds down the main drag. It was very bizarre. And it took a long time to get over that. Every time I drove on, I was like, this is not what it used to be. I mean, it's all good, it's progress. It's things have changed, and changed for the better probably, but yeah, maybe I was old enough that change was hard to deal with.
I was initially put into the electrical workshop, where we serviced the electrical components off the aircraft, the Harvards and Devons that were operating at the time at Wigram. That was 16 Harvards and 14 Devons. Due to restrictive employment consideration, we weren't allowed to stay in one job for more than 2 years. So we served equal times in the Harvard maintenance hangar in 5 hangar, or on Devon maintenance in number 4 hangar, the flight line at Wigram, and also I did time in the power plant bay, servicing components for engines that were on overhaul, and of course the battery room was part of our electrical empire as well. So when you were working, say, in number 5 hangar, if a Harvard was going in to the paint shop, you had to disconnect and isolate the battery. So nothing electrical would trigger the paint fumes, and you would go down to there and disconnect and insulate the battery, and then have to go and find the aircraft's logbook and write in there that what you'd done to the aeroplane. I don't know if I should tell you, but one day I was so busy I missed filling in the logbook, and the next thing I knew, my sergeant came to see me and said, we have a Harvard down on the flight line with an electrical problem. Every time the pilot throttles back, the radio stops working. And that's because the battery was disconnected still. Luckily it was safe, but I got an extra week's key orderly out of that from my sergeant to remind me of my responsibilities. Filling in the aircraft logbook certainly came before finishing the job. Yeah, nicknames. Everybody in the Air Force would tend to have some sort of nickname. Because I was an electrician, and electricians deal with alternating current and direct current, and my name is A. Alan McDonnell, I was given the nickname AC McDC. I look back on my life, my working life, and think I was extremely fortunate. First of all, I worked on most of the aeroplanes that we had, from flying boats up to Hastings and DC-6s and Bristol Freighter transport aircraft, Hercules when they arrived, and at Wigram I worked on Harvards and Devons and Air Tourers. We had 4 of them. I also worked on Sioux and Iroquois helicopters. At Ahakia I worked on Skyhawks, DC-3s, Strike Master aircraft and Andovers when they arrived. And then I was posted back to the training school and hardly saw another aeroplane.
My first flight in the RNZAF was actually from Auckland as a civilian, and we flew from Whenuapai, out of Whenuapai in the Bristol Freighter. That's what we're standing in right now. We landed in Christchurch, and from Christchurch we were bussed all the way to Wigram. And yes, it was open fields. There was no housing around. It was very isolated, and our journey begun. So once we started our training at 7 Hangar, our classroom was just set off from 7 Hangar, and our fire trucks were normally parked outside. We did our fire training, our drill, and also we had a fire tower which we used as self-rescue, rescue, climbing up with BA sets. It was quite a rigorous training, and the best part about it was we learnt about all the aircraft in the RNZAF, how much fuel, the construction, the name, undercarriage, the empennage. I think the best part of the fortnightly was our pay. It's not like a normal pay that, you know, people receive a envelope. For us, we had to line up, we had to sign for it. We were given a brown envelope, we saluted. Thank you very much to the government for paying us, and off we went. So it was in cash, and it was in a brown envelope. There was a ruling there by the government, it was law, that if you were under 21 you couldn't drink alcohol. So we had a lovely YMCA here, which had pool tables, slot machines, music. It was a very, very communal base, you could say, and it catered for everybody. You know, we had a cinema on base, swimming pool, we had tennis courts, we had sport fields, you know, we had a gym. So yeah, everything was catered for in this base. You didn't actually have to leave the base to go anywhere because all the facilities were here. The significance of all that training we've done here, and it was a training base. Wigram was a great place to actually start your career. To be closed down and you'd never see it again, it was a part of your soul gone. You know, you can live it in your memories, but physically it's not there.
Yeah, so initially, when I was employed down at Wigram, I was OIC Domestic Services, I think they called it, which was one of those positions that you give to their junior supply officer, that a bit of a catch-all. I was physically located in 3 store, which was in conjunction with the clothing store and the tailor office. And the other officers and a bunch of staff, they were located in 1 store, which obviously on a daily basis I would go and talk and have meetings and so on. So I alternated between 1 and 3 store pretty much every day. The old office, all blocked off now. Yeah, it wasn't a great deal of our life, but Friday night generally you would pop down to the mess. Interestingly, that's where I met Johnny Checketts for the first time. And, you know, when I was a young guy, I would read books of Daring Do and World War II, and Johnny Checketts had featured in that. And to get to meet the man in the flesh, you know, in the mess, was a big deal for me. And as bar officer, I like to, I made sure that when we did the raffles, I would always give Johnny first pick of the numbers of the ticket, and similarly when it came time to draw them, I would ask Johnny to do the honours in drawing the first ticket. You know, I met a lot of people that I'm still acquainted with nowadays, which is great. And because of, yeah, the base was busy with flying training particularly, but at the same time it afforded me the opportunity to get up and do a little bit of flying with some of my colleagues who happened to be pilots, which was fantastic. Yeah, coming back as a guide, I mean, obviously I couldn't have done it, you know, all those years ago because I really didn't know much, but coming back as a guide, a little bit older, I have a fresh new perspective on what life was really like back then, what our predecessors had to go through, the work that went into establishing this base as the training facility that it became. It's really quite poignant, and it's good for me to keep my association with the Air Force current. Because it is a bit sad to have all those years and all those experiences and then just to sort of let it go and not have anything to do with it. So I feel privileged that I'm able to maintain an association with the museum.